welcome to the Getting After It podcast. I'm very excited for this opportunity to start a podcast. This is something that I have been very passionate about doing since early 2015. That's when I first actually started hearing about podcasts. It's from Tim Ferriss, actually, if you know who that is. And now I get the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and talk with other people. And that's the point of what the Getting After It podcast is, at least for me. It's kind of a passion project, you know. Something I've discovered about myself is I enjoy talking to people, learning about their histories, their passions, things that they're pursuing, their interests. For example, there's this guy at work that I love talking about woodworking with, and you know, I would have never known some of his passions if I didn't ask. So this is going to be a platform for me to sit down with someone, ask them questions, and then really just have an open discussion and see where it goes from there. I am under the impression that everyone has a unique story. Everyone's just passionate about something in their life, and that passion is inspiring to me. No matter what passion that might be or whatever interest they might have, it's inspiring to see them actively pursuing something. And hopefully, some of that inspiration can go into your life, and you can apply some of the principles that these people have to, really show that discipline that they've done before. But anyways, hey, this is a work in progress. As you can tell, I'm gonna get a better camera set up. We're gonna work through this together. The microphone might not be 100%, but hey, you're here, and we're gonna get after it together, and that's the point. So you might be thinking, well, what does getting after it even mean? Because it can mean a lot of things. You could call it what you want, but getting after it's going to look different for everybody, and that's kind of the overall point. You know, no matter who you are, like I just said, you have something you're passionate about. Doesn't matter if you're a first grade teacher who also really loves arts and crafts. I want to know about it. If you're someone who works in a factory, but on the weekends you are an ultra marathon runner, let's talk about it. So getting after it's going to look different for everyone. You know, that's what's exciting to me, at least, is I get to explore these different passions that so many different people have and really uncover what got them to the point that they're at today. And the idea of getting after it is rooted in the concept and principle of discipline. And discipline has been something that's really shaped my life, at least. I've really learned the importance of what discipline means, holding yourself accountable, taking ownership for your life. I'm starting to sound like Jocko Willink a little bit, if you know who that is. But he's the one that really inspired me to start this podcast in the first place. And, with that said, that's why I'm doing it. Discipline is something that you need to have in your life, no matter who you are. You need to be disciplined at work. You need to be disciplined in your house, with your fitness goals, with your diet, everything. If you don't have discipline, nothing's going to stick and nothing's going to stay. Everything's going to remain the same. If you have a goal that you want to work or wake up a little bit earlier every single day, guess what? It requires a lot of discipline, because when that alarm clock goes off and it's 5 a.m, little bit cold outside, and the sheets are just extra comfortable and your head's resting super nicely in that pillow, you don't want to get out of bed. Guess what? Discipline's there. It's gonna snap you out of it, and boom, you got to get up and you got to go. You have to make it happen, because if you're not disciplined, you're not going to enjoy life and be satisfied. So getting after it is kind of a concept that requires a lot of discipline, right? So let me just give you an example of something that I've recently started getting after this year specifically. Early in January of 2022, I actually wanted to do a marathon or a half marathon. And so my sister-in-law and we signed up for a half marathon in March. So I was like, okay, I got 2 months. I can prep for this thing. I can get ready for it. No problem. And what's interesting is if you would have ever asked me if I wanted to run a half marathon my entire life, I would have said, hell no. That is the last thing I want to do. I've never been a runner. In fact, in around seventh grade, when you have to run a mile test in order to graduate middle school for some reason, I don't know why they hold that uh, as a standard of, you know, okay, you can actually move on to the next grade if you can run the mile in this amount of time. Anyways, I hated the mile test. It was absolutely the worst. I was the kid that was in the back of the locker room shoveling Cheetos down his throat and avoiding eye contact with the coach. So maybe I could get out of the mile test. It isn't a bad thing. I mean, it is what it is. Cheetos are delicious. But I was never a runner. And that's the point is I wanted to be. And because I wanted to be, it required a lot of discipline for me to wake up every single day and say, okay, I'm going to run a mile. I got to do it. Who cares? And then the next day, guess what? Got to run a mile. And it would continue to progress until it was like, okay, well, now it's 3 miles. Now I got to do 4. Okay, now Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to run 7 miles. And then on Saturday, I'm going to hit 10. And it got to the point to where I just continually had to discipline myself. And on those days when I didn't want to get up, wake up and run, I had to. And so I was training for such a long time. Not such a long time, it was 2 months. Anyways, race month comes. And at the time, I was actually experiencing a lot of health challenges to where I was at a really unhealthy weight. I don't want to go into it, but it was pretty brutal and a little bit scary. I was basically a shell of a human being, if you want to call it that. I looked like a skeleton. For those of you who are watching the video, I'll put a picture right here. Unfortunately, that is me. And it was difficult. I went to my doctor and he said, well, if you run this, you're at risk of experiencing severe cardiac stress. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it means I could basically have a heart attack. And, I have no plans of dying anytime soon. And so I thought it was best if I was to drop out of this half marathon I've been training for. It made the most sense to me to do it because I didn't want to have to go through any of that stuff. So rest assured, I missed the half marathon. And this was something that was really hard on my mental state because my parents have always instilled into my brain since an early age that, hey, if you set out to do something, if you set a goal to go and say run a half marathon, you're going to see it through to the end. That was always the main thing that one of the main things that my parents raised me on. And I took that to heart and have always applied it to my life. So this really took a toll on me. I've never been a quitter and I felt like I was quitting. But I mean, obviously it was health related, so you can't say that. But I still wanted to see it through to the end. And so back in, I want to say May of 2022, I decided, my body's at a healthy state where I feel like I can run again. And I started training. The same discipline required at the very beginning, I had to apply now. I had to wake up and start over basically. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you train so hard for something or work really, really hard for something and then it ends up not happening, but then you have to restart or something breaks and you have to restart. It's kind of that's hard on you. It's like, okay, well, I know what I have to do in order to make this happen. It's going to be difficult. So that was hard. Restarting again is another mental obstacle that I had to face, but I had to do it. And around 2 weeks ago, I ran my first half marathon. What was interesting about this one is it wasn't official. No one was there on the sideline giving me Gatorade or water or anything like that. I actually don't even think, excuse me, I don't even think I told anyone I was running this thing. But it was something I wanted to do, and so I did it. And there was a lot of solitude. It took me about an hour and 57 minutes, which isn't the fastest half marathon time. There's people who could do it in like, I don't know, probably an hour. There's some real specimens out there, real creatures of the athletic type. And anyways, so with that said, I finally accomplished something. I accomplished something that I set my mind to, and that alone was amazing. It just felt good to see something through until the end. And that was kind of the point, right? Like, it wasn't the I need to accomplish a half marathon in my life. It was more of a I need to see this through. I need to finish and follow through. So don't give up. Don't stop trying. Just be patient with the process and slow down. Take things one step at a time. In an episode later on, I'll explain what the logo means behind the Getting After It podcast, where it came from, and how good it looks on a shirt, by the way. But anyways, I'll explain what the significance behind that in a little bit. But I took the needed measures that I needed to make that happen and make that change. And that's the point of this podcast. It's to highlight small, simple stories like that not normal, everyday people go through. Because hopefully that inspires you to go out and get after what you're passionate about. Because that's the whole point. If I'm just here telling stories and interviewing people, then that's not what I want to do in my life. My life is to inspire other people, get them excited about whatever they're doing. Like, for example, my mom kicks ass at the gym. She works out every single day, and she could probably, wipe the floor with me if we ever worked out together and really put me through a solid workout. So she's a beast. And with that said, like, every single day I see her getting after it, and I'm like, yeah, go get it, mom. Yeah, that's awesome. And it gets me excited. Like, I love seeing her go after it, and then I'm able to encourage her. And she's like, oh yeah, on the days when I don't have motivation, it really helps when you send a text message. The point of that story is, if I can help inspire someone to go do something that they want to, I'm going to do it. And that's my life's purpose. And that's something that I'm really, really passionate and excited about. So follow along with this podcast. We're going to bring on a unique and interesting guest at least once a week. You'll probably get a few solo episodes once a week. But just remember that consistency compounds. It's not in the large, monumentous things. Like, you don't become an overnight success in one day. I'm sure you've heard the quote, you become an overnight success in 10 years or whatever it is. Something along those lines. I probably butchered it, but that's fine. And just be patient with yourself, because it's going to take time. Getting after it takes time. You have to develop that discipline that I mentioned, and you have to be consistent. And I just want to leave with one quote from the man who inspired me to do this whole thing, Mr. Jocko Willink. The quote's simple. It's exactly what we talk about with, getting after it. And so it sums that up pretty quick, this episode. The quote goes like this. It says, don't just think, don't just talk, don't just dream. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is that you do. So, do. And that's Jocko Willink. And that's my message too. If you're passionate about doing something in your life, if there's something that excites you and you want to pursue it, go do it. It's like me with this podcast. Right now, it's going to be rocky until I figure out and get my cadence and really understand how this whole process works. I'm a rookie. You don't start something and become an expert right away. It takes time. Like I mentioned, patience and consistency, and actually putting in the effort. So join us. I really appreciate you tuning in this week. Join us next week, and as we continue to bring on more podcast guests and learn about their lives, their passions. And if you want to be on the podcast, let me know. Send me a DM or message me somehow. But we'll talk. Because, like I mentioned, everyone's story is unique. And with that, go get some. It's time to get after it.